Welcome back to Up Close. So we're going to talk about hot topics. What is, if you call it hot topics, right? We're going to call it Up Close Hot Topics with our old friend, the daily news columnist, and WWRL radio show talk show host, Errol Louis. And you're everywhere on all these cable television. Your career has like skyrocketed on cable television.
Well, I try to get around.
Okay, well, clearly, and it all started right here.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I know it is. Our debates and everything else. Let's start with Bruce Blakeman, because I had not met him before. I don't think you had.
No, I had not.
He wants to be the Republican nominee and come out of the primary and run against Kirsten Gillibrand. He sounded like a Sarah Palin kind of guy.
Well, he's obviously trying to run on national issues, and there are a number of Republicans around the country that are going to try and do the same. I think one reason he's down about 20 points in the polls compared to Kirsten Gillibrand, and one reason why it's going to be, I think, hard to get that message to take hold is that if you run on national issues, you sound like you're from outer space, you know? I mean, he's basically trying to run against President Obama. President Obama's not on the ballot this fall. If you try to talk about local issues, you end up sounding like a Republican in name only, because so many of the issues we have to deal with, like the deficit, are, well, right, a lot of them, there's no real distinction. There's no real party flavor to them, you know? I mean, it's very hard to figure out where a Democrat or a Republican would be on things like closing this gigantic budget deficit that we've got, or trying to make sure that we've got a working healthcare system here in the state. Let
me talk about the Metro card for students issue, because today, on this last week, it was resolved. A lot of people thought it was just a political hot potato, and it was never going to really happen anyway. But there seems to have been some deal worked out where the city's going to throw in some money, the state's going to throw in some money, and MTA is going to cut even more, so that students, about 500,000 more students in New York City, will get free Metro cards to ride the bus and subway to school.
Yes, you could sort of see the outline of this, frankly, from the first moment that the cut was announced. I mean, they're just not going to do things like that. When, you know, at the city level, when they talk about closing firehouses or laying off thousands of teachers.
Not going to happen.
Well, it's an opening gambit in what is understood, I think, to be a larger negotiation. In this case, it's unfortunate that they used the kids as pawns in this negotiation, but I don't think it was ever in question that they were going to have to figure out a way to get those kids to school.
But it scared the heck out of a lot of parents who thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to pay $1,000 for each kid to ride the subway and bus.
Which was the intended effect, was shock therapy, to let people know that all of the budget talk, all of the deficit talk was not idle, was that it was going to reach them sooner or later, and that if it wasn't in their face, maybe their kid would be in their face.
And we wonder why people think politics is a cynical profession.
Well, you know, I've seen worse ways to try and focus the public's attention.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the national issues. President Obama, first ever Oval Office address for him, talking about this oil spill, and then he got extracted a $20 billion trust fund, basically, for claims by BP. He's taken a lot of heat for this, Errol.
He took a lot of heat for the speech. People didn't like it. Some people thought it wasn't left enough. Some people thought it wasn't angry enough. It wasn't passionate enough. The only thing I heard the following day was $20 billion. That, to me, is what the speech was about, $20 billion. There are those who say that he shouldn't be focusing on the larger question of how to get off our dependence on fossil fuel. There are others who say that it's a good idea. I mean, he was himself. He was calm, he was straightforward, he was earnest, he was intelligent, he was appealing to the nation to sort of reason with him. And a lot of people don't think that reason works in a case like that. There's a lot of room for just righteous rage.
But how to deal with this? Do we let a giant oil company whose primary incentive is profits, not safety, as we've seen here? It's not going on a limb to say that.
Right.
Or do we get government bureaucrats involved who have been in the industry before and who own stock in these oil companies who aren't necessarily in the public interest either? Yeah,
well, I'll tell you, it's a very large question of government, because whether you're talking about the auto industry, the banking industry, now we're talking about the mining and extraction field, we've got to get the balance right. We've had a lot of deregulation. The president has said, and the Democrats have said, we need some re-regulation, but how and when and who's going to do it, stitching back together some kind of fabric of trust. That's the main goal of government in a lot of ways, and I think this is going to be a sort of a threshold issue for him. Not just the particulars of cleaning up the Gulf, although that's got to get done, but this larger question of how do you regulate industry in a way that enhances our prosperity without letting industry run amok.
Who would have thought? Afghanistan, the economy, no, it's an oil spill in the Gulf. It could.
Well, sure. Well, there is this issue about $1 trillion, $1 trillion or $3 worth of minerals in Afghanistan.
Exactly. That's interesting, too. We'll talk about that next time. Errol Louis, thanks for joining us. That'll do it for this edition of Up Close, the Father's Day edition of Up Close. If you missed any of our program today, you can catch it again on our website. Yep, we're on our website, 7online.com. We thank you all for watching. We want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend, Father's Day weekend, for all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy the day. I'm Bill Ritter. For all of us at Channel 7, have a good day.